She didn't recognize her own voice when she said it. No. Just that. One word, but after 32 years of silence, it landed like an earthquake. The room froze, and her husband's face changed in a way she'd never seen before. It had been 32 years since she'd contradicted him in public. 32 years of nodding, smiling, redirecting, softening his edges in front of others so no one would see what she saw every morning across the breakfast table. But this time something inside her had gone still. Not angry, not brave, just a done. And now everyone was staring. The waiter froze mid-pour. The couple at the next table looked away too quickly. Her husband's hand still raised. Mid-gesture hovered in the air like a threat that hadn't landed yet. She could feel her heartbeat in her throat. That was the moment everything quietly began to unravel. This is a golden heart story for anyone who's ever felt invisible in their own life. Before we go any further, tell me in the comments, have you ever stayed silent when you wanted to scream? Because this story is about what happens when silence finally breaks. Her name was Vivian Walsh. 59. Married young. Raised two sons who now lived on opposite coasts and called every other Sunday out of obligation, not affection. She had a routine. Wake at 6. Coffee alone. Shower while he read the paper. Breakfast without conversation. Errands. Dinner prep. Wine at 7 whether she wanted it or not. Because he wanted it and it was easier that way. She didn't remember the last time someone had asked her what she wanted. Not her sons. Not her friends. The ones who'd slowly stopped calling after she canceled plans one too many times. Not Raymond. Raymond Walsh was a man who believed the world owed him deference. He'd built a successful accounting firm. He golfed on Wednesdays. He had opinions about everything. Politics, restaurants, the neighbors' landscaping. The way Vivian folded his shirts. He wasn't cruel in the obvious ways. He never yelled, never raised a hand. But he had a way of looking at her. Just over his reading glasses. With that small, tired sigh that made her feel like she was always disappointing him. And somewhere along the way, she'd started to believe it. She stopped wearing the colors she liked. Stopped suggesting restaurants. Stopped finishing her sentences when he interrupted. She became smaller. Quieter. A shadow in her own kitchen. And the worst part? She didn't even notice it happening. Not until that night. It was their anniversary. 32 years. Rynan had made the reservation. Marcello's, the Italian place downtown he liked because the owner knew him by name. Vivian had suggested trying somewhere new. Maybe that French bistro that had just opened. He'd looked at her like she'd suggested eating at a gas station. We always go to Marcello's. So they went to Marcello's. She wore the navy dress he'd bought her last Christmas. It fit well enough. He liked her in navy. They sat at their usual table. He ordered for both of them without asking. She'll have the salmon, no capers. Vivian didn't like salmon. She hadn't in years. But she'd stopped saying so because it always turned into a thing. You used to love salmon. You're so picky now. Just try it. So she said nothing. The waiter poured the wine. Raymond launched into a story about a client. Something about tax brackets and offshore accounts that she'd heard 3 times already. She nodded, smiled, let her mind drift, and then he said it. Casually, like it was nothing. You know, Vivian's memory isn't what it used to be. I have to remind her of everything now. It's like living with a child. He laughed. The couple at the next table yawned. Maybe in their 30s glanced over. The man smirked. The woman looked uncomfortable. Vivian felt her chest tighten. Raymond kept talking. Last week she forgot we had dinner plans with the Lewises. Just completely spaced. I had to call and apologize for both of us. That wasn't true. She hadn't forgotten. He'd never told her. But correcting him would mean a fight later. A cold silence that would last days. So she did what she always did. She smiled, looked down, took a sip of wine. And that's when something inside her cracked. Not loudly, just quietly, like ice splitting under weight. Raymond was still talking. I keep telling her, write it down, Viv, use your phone. But she won't listen, stubborn as ever. The waiter arrived with their food. Raymond gestured at her plate. Make sure there are no capers. She'll send it back otherwise. Very particular. And Vivian heard herself saying, no. Raymond blinked. The waiter froze. I'm sorry, Raymond said, his smile thinning. Vivian set down her wine glass. Her hand wasn't shaking. I said no. Raymond's face shifted. Not angry yet, just confused. Like she'd started speaking another language. Viv, what are you? I didn't forget about the Lewises. She said quietly. You never told me. His jaw tightened. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. The couple at the next table had stopped pretending not to listen. Raymond leaned forward, voice low. Controlled. We'll talk about this at home. No, Vivian said again. We'll talk about it now. Something flickered in his eyes. Something she'd never seen before. Fear. You've been doing this for years. She continued. Her voice was steady. Come, you tell people I'm forgetful. That I'm difficult. That you have to manage me. But the truth is, Raymond, you just don't listen. Vivian. I don't like salmon. I haven't liked it in 15 years. But you keep ordering it for me because you think I should. The waiter took a small step back. Raymond's face was red now. This is not the place. You're right, Vivian said. She stood. Her legs felt strange, light, like she'd been sitting for 32 years and had just remembered how to walk. She picked up her purse. Vivian, sit down. She looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time in decades, she saw him clearly. A man who needed her small so he could feel big. I'm going home, she said. You can stay, finish your meal. If you walk out of here, don't bother coming back. The words hung in the air. The waiter pretended to check his notepad. Vivian felt her heart pounding, but not with fear. With something else. Something that felt almost like relief. Okay, she said softly. And she walked out. She sat in her car for 20 minutes before she started the engine. Her hands were shaking now. Not from fear, from adrenaline. From the sheer weight of what she'd just done. She didn't go home. She drove to the only place she could think of, Bryn's house. Bryn had been her best friend in college. They drifted after Vivian got married. The way friends do when life pulls you in different directions. But they still exchanged Christmas cards, still texted on birthdays. Vivian sat in the driveway for 5 minutes before she knocked. Bryn opened the door in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, wine glass in hand, and took one look at Vivian's face. Oh, honey, she said. Get in here. They sat in Bryn's kitchen. Vivian told her everything. The restaurant, the humiliation, the walk out. Bryn listened without interrupting. When Vivian finally stopped talking, Bryn refilled her wine glass and said, What took you so long? Vivian laughed, a sharp, surprised sound that turned into something closer to a sob. I don't know, she whispered. I really don't know. Bryn reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You can stay here as long as you need. He told me not to come back. Good, don't. Vivian stared at her. Bryn, I've been married for 32 years. I don't even know who I am without him. Bryn's eyes were fierce, kind. Then maybe it's time to find out. 3 days later, Raymond showed up. Vivian was sitting on Bryn's porch with coffee when his car pulled into the driveway. He got out slowly, He looked tired. Older. Vivian. She didn't stand. We need to talk, he said. So talk. He shifted his weight, uncomfortable. This has gone on long enough. You've made your point. What point is that? That you're upset. I get it. But we're adults. We can work through this. Vivian took a sip of her coffee. You embarrass me, Raymond said quietly. Walking out like that. People are talking. Let them. His face hardened. You're being childish. Maybe, Vivian said, or maybe I'm finally being honest. I didn't mean. He stopped, ran a hand through his hair. Look, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. But you're blowing this out of proportion. If you hurt my feelings? Vivian, you humiliated me in public, Raymond. You've been doing it for years, and you don't even see it. I was joking. No, you were cruel. His jaw clenched. I have given you everything. A home, a life, stability. And this is how you repay me. Vivian set down her coffee. Her hands were steady. You gave me a cage, she said quietly, and I'm done living in it. Raymond stared at her. Then he turned and walked back to his car. He didn't look back. That night, Vivian couldn't sleep. She lay in Bryn's guest room, staring at the ceiling, and thought about 32 years. 32 years of biting her tongue, of swallowing her voice, of believing that keeping the peace was the same as being loved. She thought about her sons, the way they talked to their wives, the way they'd learned from Raymond that women were supposed to accommodate, to yield. She thought about the version of herself she'd buried, the one who used to laugh aloud, who wore red lipstick, who had opinions and didn't apologize for them. And she realized something. She missed her. If this story is reminding you of someone you love or someone you used to be, share it with them. Sometimes we all need permission to choose ourselves. 2 months later, Vivian filed for divorce. Raymond tried to fight it. Then he tried to negotiate. Then he tried to guilt her. None of it worked. She found a lawyer, a good one. She moved into a small apartment with hardwood floors and too much light. She started painting again, something she hadn't done since before the wedding. Her sons called. They were confused, concerned. They wanted her to reconsider. Dad's really struggling, her youngest said. So was I, Vivian replied. For 32 years. There was a long silence. Then I didn't know, Mom. I know, she said gently. I didn't let you. 6 months after that night at Marcello's, Vivian went back. Alone. She sat at a different table. Ordered the risotto, her actual favorite. The waiter recognized her. Good to see you again, ma'am. She smiled. It's good to be here. And when the check came, she paid it herself. Walked out into the cool evening air. And for the first time in decades, she felt like herself. Thank you for spending this time with Golden Heart Stories. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that it's never too late to choose yourself, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us keep telling stories that matter. And here's my question for you. What part of this story stayed with you the most? Leave it in the comments. I read every single one. Until next time, take care of your heart.